This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du noch?
If you've heard that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
For all our Texas high school football coaches out there, digital wristbands are now approved for play calling purposes in-game for the 2025 season. Last year, GoRoute Gridiron became the only wearable solution to ever be used for a full season of play in the NCAA. It allows coaches to instantly send plays to their players' devices with no huddles, no confusion, and no delays. Gridiron meets all UIL guidelines and keeps your team moving faster and playing smarter. Sign up using Coordinator for 25% off setup fees at GoRoute.com/podcast. That's GoRout.com/podcast using promo code Coordinator for up to 25% off setup fees today.
And now everybody's looking at these guys to get the signals. Well, guess what? Everybody in the stadium is now looking at those people. And again, you're right. You just don't know who's got eyes on those kind of things, right? Whereas, with Gridiron, it's covert. It's just literally you can communicate whatever you want without the entire stadium knowing something is changing.
Welcome to another episode of The Art of Practice presented by GoRoute. And today I'm excited to dig into some of the new technology that has been approved right now in Texas. I do see it coming soon across the country, but I think this really opens up the game and makes it a lot easier for us as coaches, and truthfully is better for our players too, in the technology that will be used in game for play calling or play signaling. And joining me today is Drew Robinson. He's the Chief of Partnerships at GoRoute, former coach himself with stops at Western Michigan, Syracuse, and Rutgers, and an expert in how this technology can be used now on game day. So Drew, it's great to have you here. You and I were chatting before we got going. I know we have a lot of exciting things to talk about here, so thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. Excited to talk about GoRoute Gridiron, GoRoute Scout, and really all things GoRoute.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about GoRoute Scout, and I think our listeners are familiar with that, but I would love for you to make the distinction between those two products at GoRoute.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you've heard in your other podcasts, GoRoute Scout is our scout team solution. So what we do via GoRoute Scout is we give coaches the ability to ditch the binders and with a simple drag and drop from whatever card drawing software they use, or a simple picture of their hand-drawn cards, they're able to get more efficient reps while out at practice. Instead of the coaches having to bring that scout team into a binder and really, maybe take about a minute a card, right, to get everybody all set up and going. Now we put that binder in the palm of every coach's hand, and with one button click, they can then communicate that card out to every player on the field. And I've always considered it to be kind of your scout team flashcard, if you will, that you to just get better, faster reps. We actually purchased it at Western Michigan when I got there in 2017. And to be honest with you, Keith, the biggest change for us, we got a hell of a lot more reps, right? But what really struck us once we started using it was the quality of those reps just got significantly better because, again, you have that flashcard. I'm going to use that a lot, that flashcard around your scout team's waist at that point. And again, we were just able to kind of cook through plays without having to worry about miscommunication and all, everything that comes traditionally with old school scout teams. We're excited now that we have our GoRoute Gridiron product, which is a smartwatch that players wear either on their wrist or, with the belt, or attaching it to their belt. And basically that provides coaches an opportunity to communicate their play calls directly with their players in game from a tablet on the sideline or in the coach's box. And again, that enables them to securely communicate their play calls at that point. So we've developed that product over the last 2 years with, sign stealing being in the news over the last couple of years. Coaches are always looking for a way to kind of prevent covert operations, if you will, is what we like to say, and really securely communicate their play calls without the worrying of who's watching their signalers, who's watching their signboards, and really provide their players with effective communications as well.
Yeah, it's funny because you think about the advances now in technology and how this is becoming a part of the game, and adoption by every level, I think, is just around the corner. There will be the little ones right now who aren't playing yet, but down the line will be saying they used to do what? It would be foreign to them, right? Like a rotary phone. I mean, you used to signal plays in. Like, yeah, it's crazy. What's funny is the technology has been there a long time for in-game communications. Paul Brown developed it way back in like these are 60s in-helmet communication, and that took forever to get adopted. But I do see now with the movement and technology, this will be more of a rapid adoption rate. And the rule change now has been made in Texas. So for our non-Texas listeners who might not be aware, tell us what's happened and then potentially what's coming down the line for everybody else through the NFHS, the federation.
Yeah, so, the UIL in Texas, the state governing body in Texas, really was forward thinking and we're listening to their coaches over, the course of 2 years or so, and heard the need for some kind of coach to player communications. Obviously, people are very familiar with the system you just mentioned, the in-helmet system, which is always just going to be limited just based on kind of logistics, right? It's going to be limited by how many helmets you can have a speaker in. It's going to be limited by, do you need somebody to control a shutoff, at a 15 seconds or what have you? All these kind of barriers to entry, if you will, when you start talking about doing that at scale. And one of the things, I'll piggyback off what you just said as well, is, much like times have changed since Paul Brown invented the in-helmet speaker, offenses and defenses have changed quite a bit too, right? So now it's more important than ever to be able to communicate with every player on the field. And that's where we've always looked at kind of coach to player communications differently at GoRoute is why limit it to just one when you can communicate via everybody via smartwatches and or belts at that point. So a long way to get her back to the UIL. Basically, what they've allowed for this year is an unlimited number of players can wear wearable devices. The coaches must send the calls from the press box. Texas does not allow any kind of coaching technology on the sidelines. So tablets can't be on the sidelines. Even their sideline replays are only used in the coach's box and in the locker room at halftime, actually, which is a bit different than some other states. But again, with that being said, that's where we're able to kind of establish ourselves as the go-to in Texas because of the fact that our system is built with, via cellular technology, which doesn't offer any kind of distance restrictions. So I could sit here in New Jersey and send calls to Texas, and they would come through just as fast as if I was on that field in Texas. Whereas some of the other systems on the market are radio-based and are always just going to be limited by range, right? And that's where we're just different with how we do things. And Texas, again, is showing the kind of foresight of this is where the game is going. And especially down there with the way those teams run offense, coaches having the ability to communicate with more than just one player is extremely valuable. And again, we truly believe that as Texas goes, everybody else goes, to an extent. And we're excited to work with NFHS. We've made a number of kind of inquiries to NFHS and want to work with them. We very much worked with UIL and THSCA, the Texas High School Coaches Association, over the last couple of years to get them comfortable with our wearable technology. And we're excited to be offered that same opportunity with NFHS, hopefully here in the near future as well.
Yeah, the technology is great. And I was able to use it. I think 2016, Mike gave me a set to use. We were at the college level and in the GoRout Scout, which was the only product at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that ability to be able to use it anywhere because of the cellular technology is good. And I mean, you talked about you could do it in New Jersey and in Texas. I think you just invented the virtual coach, Drew. So if that's happening, we'll attribute that to you.
Thanks.
For the GoRoute Gridiron, walk us through what that setup is like. And I know certainly there can be a number of different configurations, as teams start to adopt this. But let's assume all 11 players have that on and are able to use it. Certainly, you see teams in the signal system, the receivers, the skill guys get all the signals, and there's a sugar huddle for the line. And certainly, if there's a budget restriction, those are 5 guys maybe you keep it off of. But let's talk about how it works for all 11 and what that setup looks like and operations on game day.
Yeah, Keith, to be honest with you, what we've been very cognizant of, especially going into this first year, really our second year, with the Liberty League experimentation last year, we really are trying to keep it simple, stupid this first year, to be really honest with you, right? Because this is such a new technology coming to football and coming to Texas that we wanted to keep it super simple. So basically, all coaches are going to have to do is upload their call sheet to an Excel spreadsheet provided by GoRoute. They're going to be able to download it right from the app itself. And basically, once they kind of transcribe their play calls into that spreadsheet, they can upload it to the GoRoute system, and boom, they're going to have 3 columns available for their play calls at that point. Those columns are going to be customizable. So right now, the way we have it built, it was basically a personnel formation play call, and it would happen in basically a waterfall scenario. What I mean by that is, let's say you had your left column was all your personnel. So you had 11, 12, you had 22, what have you. And your plays, if you hit 11, it would only pull the formations that you had tagged with 11. And then you hit that formation, boom, it'll pull up all your plays into that formation. So again, kind of a streamlined way of using your play calling. We do have a number of teams that we've seen in the Liberty League, especially, who have used this strictly as like a wristband system, where in the left column, they've just done 1 through 100. And then once they say, hey, wristband 48, they can scroll down to 48, press a button, boom, that play goes out to every one of the wristbands. So again, the really cool thing about how we built all of our products here at GoRoute is it's really going to be customized for your program and how you want to do things. Yes, we provide a guidance and kind of a baseline of kind of how we envisioned it being used. But because our technology is so flexible and app-based, literally it gives coaches kind of the power to do it how they want to do it, which again is of the utmost importance for us at GoRoute. Is we never want to provide a product where we're kind of pigeonholing coaches to have to do things a certain way. We want them to be able to do things the way they're comfortable doing and just leveraging our technology to do that. So once they have all their play calls built in, basically, again, in 1 to 3 button clicks, they're going to be able to communicate that play call into everybody wearing one of our watches. So again, every team is going to be doing it a little bit differently. That's the other kind of benefit to our background as coaches is every package is customizable. So you can buy one GoRoute device if maybe you just wanted to have it on your quarterback, or you could buy 40 if you wanted everybody on your sideline to have one, right? You literally have the ability to do it however you want to do it. And basically, to your point, right? So you don't have to put them on your lineman, right? We all know a lot of the spread offenses, especially, the quarterback or running back is telling the lineman the protection or the play call or what have you. You're still going to be able to do that. So again, to your point, budget-wise, you can kind of scale down your package at that point and be able to really leverage the technology however you want to do it. Once that play call goes in, every watch is going to vibrate. Okay. So your players basically have that haptic response of knowing, okay, I got to look down at the play call. Where that's really going to be most effective is going to be, and I know we'll touch on this in a bit, would be, your hot calls, right? Your check with me's, your late adjustments, right? Either on offense or defense. Again, that's going to be a super powerful tool to make sure you're able to communicate with everybody on the field without having to worry about that corner on the far hash, on the far sideline from your sideline. Did he see the sign? Did he get that coverage change? What have you? This is going to be able to, provide that confidence with one click at that point.
Yeah, this is where I think it gets fun as we get into, all right, you have this tool now. How does it change the game? What's the strategies now? How are you going to use procedures as a weapon or tempo as a weapon? And it opens up the possibilities in some very unique ways, right? And you think about what we're doing, the different procedures where, the look tempo, where everybody used to go up to the ball, false cadence, and then look over to the sideline. Well, I remember early on as I was doing that, and there was a year where we did almost exclusively the look tempo. I knew there would be a time that when we looked over, and it took a year or two, the defense would start looking over, and when we changed, they would change, and now everybody's back at square one. And the biggest thing we did to counter that is, well, shoot, we're only looking at one or two things. Why don't we just tell our quarterback? Because if everybody just stays focused where they're at, and he's either making hand signals or communicating, the defense is not going to look over. So that was our answer to that. And then we had some double look things where we look once, cadence again, look again, and get it. And you could develop all those weapons. And now I think the procedures will change, and you'll be able to do some unique things with GoRoute, right? And you think of some of the very simplest things, right? Trying to reveal the structure of the defense. Speed will do that, for one. At the NFL level forever, it was, hey, we're going to motion a guy to detect what you guys are doing. But, with all those things, then it had to go to a kill, and those things were memorized. And that takes a lot to get people on the same page and to be able to do it. You almost have to be, in some ways, that professional team. We did some kills at the college level, but we killed off of a wristband. It was pretty limited, but effective. Speed being one part of it, the motions, et cetera. And I think now, because of what you just said, that, hey, there's a vibration and something's coming in real quick, a guy's here and they're adjusted and going. So it could be, to kick things off, I'm thinking, okay, I want a motion to identify potentially a rotation or what's their coverage going to be, to man or zone, et cetera. I could just send in the formation and motion and, within them understanding that we're in this tempo, and not worry about the call till I see exactly what they're in, and then boom, there it is. I'm signaling us in. And that's working like that, right?
Yeah.
There's no verbal out of the quarterback to tell everybody, and it takes away some of those things that we go back to the legal part of sign stealing, meaning that you could get it off tape. I don't think anybody ever had a problem with that. Right. I know of NFL teams and analysts at NFL teams who would get the TV copy and listen for every single call.
Yep. I did that.
Yeah, exactly. So now, anytime they're saying these certain words, here's what we're doing. And I mean, I've seen it, and they've told me, yeah, we had every call. And I go back and watch the game. I'm like, holy cow, you did. You guys were on everything, right? So that's gone.
Yeah.
But now there's this new thing that replaces it that moves really fast. And man, who has the chalk last, right? But yeah, I would love to hear, some of your ideas on how this is used and some of the weapons you can use as you strategize with GoRoute Gridiron.
Yeah, I think you nailed a couple things. Number one, I think, to your point with regards to the signalers and the signboards and things like that. I now I'm lucky enough to be a fan on Saturdays, right? And the cool thing is, or what you notice all the time, is all these teams that have, the different color signalers, right? And guess what? When quarterback or the offense is looking over at those signalers, or the defense, everybody in the stadium is looking at those signalers, right? Because you have a yellow shirt, a purple shirt, a green shirt that stand out like a sore thumb. And now everybody's looking at these guys to get the signals. Well, guess what? Everybody in the stadium is now looking at those people. And again, you're right. You just don't know who's got eyes on those kind of things, right? Whereas, with Gridiron, it's covert. It's just literally you can communicate whatever you want without the entire stadium knowing something is changing, right? And I think that's, in its simplest terms, what we're trying to solve. Is how can I effectively communicate or efficiently communicate without the worry of, funny business going on kind of behind the scenes. I think some of the ways, we're excited about teams experiencing Gridiron this year is, in addition to those three columns that I mentioned earlier, we also have a hot list on both sides of the ball. And that is built for your check with me's. It is built with your late adjusts on defense. It is built for one button overriding everything to every player. And again, it's going to be really fascinating to see how teams use that, right? We've had teams in the past, this past fall, who used it, where they were sending messages to their quarterback, like, read the 3-tech, right? So it wasn't just a play call. It was also a note with regards to kind of how the defense lined up. At the same time, on defense, I can share with you, I've been blessed to work with a lot of very, very successful collegiate defensive coaches. And when we kind of kicked around ideas with them as we were building the system, one of those coaches mentioned to me how I had shared with him that a lot of people are really stuck on this just being a tool for your offense and letting your offense go faster. This coach made mention of offenses are already going pretty fast. I don't know how much faster they can go, right? Where his view of the world, because he was a defensive minded coach, was this is actually going to level the playing field for the defense, because now, defense is always the last one to react, right? Based on formation, the motions that you mentioned and things like that. That now with one click of that hot list, again, if they see something late adjust and they want to drop into a cover 2 shell, to protect themselves from something over the top or what have you, now with one button click, they can send 2 to everybody. And boom, now even that corner on the far side of the field opposite the sideline, you don't have to worry about whether they got that sign through a mass of people or what have you. Now they're just looking down their wrist. They're feeling that vibration and looking at that wrist, and they've got that call at that point. So again, I think there's so many different ways that teams are going to leverage this. Again, just the way they kind of present or build their calls is going to be customizable to how they want to do it. But we really anticipate the hot list being such a awesome feature for us because of the fact that it does allow coaches to kind of make those last second adjustments on both sides of the ball to be able to really effectively communicate those changes without the worry of, did Johnny see the sign? Did, again, because of distance or what have you, this is where we're seeing the most excitement with regards to the system.
Yeah. There's a lot there to unpack, and thinking of, the way we do signals. And one of the things we always did is, our signalers, and they each kind of had a different part of the call, but they had to cycle through and they had a signal at the end that indicated they were done, but they would keep doing it till they saw everybody was looking away. Right. Mm-hmm. To make sure that guy on the far sideline or somebody's obstructed and you have to move way over this way. And, the offensive line trying to strain, around and see it. I mean, all those things are limited. It will make offenses faster, no doubt. Now, we might only be shaving a second or two, but that's still huge. It's still on the operation of the officials, but if you could trim it down to when we're ready for play, that you're gone, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, and I think it'll be there's probably a bit of a difference between faster and more efficient to an extent, right? And that's what so one of the things that we had heard from the NCAA over the last few years that was a worry of theirs with regards to wearables was, with all the player safety issues going on there, they were worried about adding too many more plays to games, right? They're always kind of looking for ways from a player safety standpoint. For whatever reason, they always think more plays could lead to more injuries, which I understand to an extent. Again, I don't know if one player 50 plays, you'd probably have the same opportunity for a player safety issue. And what we did when we did this Liberty League trial this past fall was they only used it in conference play. So they used it for basically the last 7 games of their season. The first 4 games of their season or 5 games of their season, they were using just standard, protocols. And what we were able to do was we basically looked and see, what their average plays per game was over the course of the first half of the season, and then extrapolate that versus using GoRoute in the second half of the season. And it was minimal. Like the additional plays was minimal. And again, I think that's because there's a difference between more plays or more efficient, right? So I think you can still go more efficient or more faster without adding plays. I know that sounds probably counterintuitive, but I really think that the proof was in the pudding this past fall with how we monitored that. And that's what we expect kind of moving forward as well.
Yeah, that was always our challenge when we decided we wanted to go fast. And our first study was, well, how fast can we actually go? What is the minimum time? And like I said, it's all on the officials. And I know we had it at like 12 point some seconds that, mm-hmm. Anything quicker than that doesn't matter because the ball's not ready for play, right? It still has to get spotted and all those things. So yeah, you could cut some of that down, but you're right, it's going to be minimal. I think what this really does allow you to do, and a lot of people have that philosophy of not necessarily go fast all the time. And when you want to go fast, it can allow you to go super fast, but the ability to change tempo and to do it in a way, I hate to say this, the defensive guys, but to do it in a way that will affect the defense. It's something we used to think about. And the reason we wanted to cut down communication time was to, we were we were training the defense to see one thing for a couple of plays, and they thought they were going to see it again, and then we did something else. And that might have been for us, we had to create, when you saw this particular signal, that we're in a sequence of 3 plays. All you're doing is looking to the sideline to make sure we're still in it. It was one simple go, go, go call. And a lot of times for us, it was run, run, pass. And on the pass, I had multiple things I'd show in clinics where, how did that guy get so wide open? Well, because the safety in the corner both run fit because they thought we were running the same play again because we just did the 2 plays before. So it allows you to move through things procedurally a lot differently than what you did with signals. And if you are going really fast, I think the opportunity to get the freeze play is pretty good too. Cause you always, you're training them that we're going fast, and you get up there and ultimately you're only going to be able to pull this off a couple times because, everybody yelling chili or frosty or whatever, like they figure that out really quick. We're not dumb.
Right.
Not doing that anymore. You're not doing it.
Same thing with tempo calls, right? I mean, every team I've ever been a part of, we had a NASCAR call, right? Where it's like you're going fast. And I think that procedurally, I think that's where, you kind of hit the nail on the head with regards to that next play, right? So like, if this is a tempo series for you, I think to your credit as well, the ability to mix in your tempos via the gridiron system is going to be like, it'll be like nothing you've ever seen before, right? Just because of the fact that you can kind of, have those different punches, if you will, available at any given time and use it how you want. And I think procedurally that kind of in between plays when you're going tempo, because remember, in theory, as the whistle's blowing for that, first down play, you can send the second down play call to the wrists, right? So that's where you're going to steal some of that time and really probably catch the defense on their heels quite a bit. It's almost like the opposite freeze play, right? It's almost like, let's go super fast, right? Let's go super fast to maybe they're not even set up and I still got that free 5 yards at that point, right? So again, I think there's going to be all kinds of different ways, you can mix and match the tempo stuff. And again, I think it's going to be really interesting this first year of widespread use to see kind of how everybody's doing it. And we're going to learn a lot from that as well.
Yeah, well, the other side of it too is, the defense gets to practice and have their procedures and use the tools as well. And I think this is a tremendous opportunity for defenses not to get forced into vanilla by tempo, for defenses to be able to change plays when they realize there's a kill going on and match that with the speed of getting their call into the game. Because we know that when a team's trying to go fast, they're based on how that official is operating too. So let's go with 12 seconds. The offense is going to show you their formation.
Right.
Now you're not watching for all these signals to come in on defense. They're just all right there. What takes time is those sequence of signals to look at it. And that's more than anything, unless there are a lot of defensive coaches who have matched the ability to do one-word calls and all those kinds of things. But essentially, you're turning everything into a one-word call because it's right there on your wrist. That's on defense too. So they do have the ability to match and do some things and be creative with their uses of this as well.
I shared with you before we started recording, we met with a number of defensive coaches because, kind of whenever you're talking about this kind of system, people always think of offense first, which is understandable, for what it provides. But we've had a number of defensive coaches tell us that they really feel this kind of wearable system is going to level the playing field for exactly that point with regards to the one-word cost. Even, in old school, either wristbands, because you see more and more defenses wearing wristbands these days too, even at the NFL level. I mean, that was something that was eye-opening for us at GoRoute over the last 2 years. You've seen more and more NFL teams using wristband systems, especially on defense, because, the NFL has gotten much more kind of caught up to the college level with regards to some of the tempo stuff that we're talking about today. And defenses need to be able to kind of stay, keep up with that tempo. That's where these defensive coaches see this as leveling the playing field, because if I have a list, and we know most defenses, the defensive coordinators don't carry as much into a game as offensive coaches do. We know that historically anyway. And usually, they have 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of adjust calls that, based on formation, based on motions and things like that are those quick one-word calls. And again, they're going to have a list of just those one-word calls available to them that the second they see, that the formation to the boundary or something like that, they're able to hit that one word call and boom, everybody gets it. Again, you don't have to worry about it. Again, it's so much from a defensive side of the field. That far corner is what we always use as an example, right? That away from the side, your sideline corner who's, maybe up on the line, right? And is like literally it's hard for him to even look across the field through the mass of people that are in front of them and between you and the sideline. And now with that one button click, he's going to get a vibration on his wrist and see cover 2. Okay. Right. And be able to adjust at that point. So that's where those defensive coaches feel confident that this is really going to, level the playing field to an extent because of the fact that their communication needs to be faster and it's going to be faster with this type of system.
Yeah. We've even seen that in tempo. And boy, I know Alabama was involved in the game, and I can't remember if they did it or someone did it to him, but that fake look, right? To that corner, that exact guy, he's going like that to look over, and the guy's running past him, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
100%.
Again, a lot of creative opportunities, getting back to what you guys do in the support here. I know you guys are extremely busy in Texas right now, but what can coaches and teams expect as far as GoRoute helping them get set up and make this transition into using this technology?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we stress, that I stress with coaches in Texas all day, every day, which is what it's been like for the last 3 or 4 weeks, is, we're all former coaches. Okay. So, a couple other companies out there on the market doing what we're doing. And I think after 1 or 2 conversations with those companies, they see we're just a bit different with kind of how we're built. And why I kind of lean on that so much is we have built this system with a coach in mind. So, to my point earlier, where we're keeping it simple, stupid this year, again, that's all because we understand kind of you can't have this technology slow down those procedures and slow down those processes that we've been talking about. It's got to just fit. It's got to fit into the workflow. It's got to flow. It can't be cumbersome. It can't add more time because we're an efficiency company by trade, right? So again, that's kind of where I think we're really leaning on the fact that it's truly built by coaches for coaches. And that's really all of our products. But we've answered a lot of the questions before they even ask them once they see kind of how the system works, if that makes sense. I think, the other thing is something that we're always committed to is, and again, this is always back on our experience as coaches, is the fact that our customer support is second to none. The really cool thing about our customer support is most of them are former GoRoute users or current GoRoute users, to be honest with you. All former football coaches, like our sales staff and like our leadership staff. Again, so that gives you, coaches the peace of mind of knowing if they need help and they need to call in and get some assistance, they're talking to somebody who speaks football. They're not talking to somebody who, may or may not even be in this country, right? They know that they're picking up the phone and they're going to have somebody, who can talk X's and O's and understands kind of what they're trying to communicate on the other end of the phone. And that's important to us. We're actually we're hiring another customer support representative right now because of some of the growth we've had. And that's, their playing or coaching experience is almost number one that we look at when we're evaluating candidates, because we want them to be able to communicate effectively with coaches as they call in. And I think, last thing is with regards to this part of it is, I think coaches are really finding a value in using a system that's been used before. And like I mentioned, the Liberty League, a D3 league in New York State, they did an experimentation of the GoRoute Gridiron system this past fall, and every team used it for their conference slate. So 7 games for each one of the 7 teams. And they were able to provide us with a tremendous amount of feedback. And we were able to see kind of how teams were using it and make adjustments based on kind of what we were seeing. And I think you never want to jump into something that's never been used before, because that's scary, because it's never been, just something as simple as taking hits. And right, it's a contact sport. How are these wearables going to kind of be reliable in those kind of contact environments? And again, that's all stuff that we've been through and we've seen, and we've made adjustments based on some of those different things. So again, I think that's what coaches in Texas, especially right now, are taking comfort in, is the fact that this system has been used before at the NCAA level, and that's, again, just something that we're the only one. We're the only company that's had that kind of experimentation before. So again, that's where we kind of talk to kind of our proven nature of our system, because again, it's been used for an entire NCAA season.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point. I mean, you guys are football guys, everybody who I've met there, and other than Mike, who's a baseball guy.
Yeah. He's a football guy at heart.
He definitely is a football guy at heart. He looks like a football guy. But, I don't think any of us just think of this as it's just a tech upgrade. Like, if that's all it is, I don't think that excites us as coaches. I mean, I think this is, and you've seen it, you have the case study of the Liberty League, that this is a strategic transformation as well.
Yeah, I think what we're learning and what coaches are learning, right, is they only know the helmet audio system because that's what's been on Sundays forever. And now, obviously, the FBS has had that experience for a year. But again, what gets kind of lost sometimes is you're still only communicating to one player in those environments. And so much of coaching anxiety, I would say, on game day is making sure your players understand the calls, right? Or get the calls, or hear the calls, or see the signals, right? Well, why don't we figure out a way to do that easier? And that's where we've come into play because you're never going to be able to have 11 speakers and 11 helmets. I mean, it's just the cost associated with that, the logistics, the actual kind of frequency power of those radio-based systems. It's just never going to be attainable, to be honest with you. Whereas with wearables and with our cellular-based technology, again, it allows for you to put a digital wristband on every player at that point and communicate with every player. And again, I think that's what we're most excited about is, maybe some of those traditionalists that are just so familiar with the one helmet, audio system, seeing this and really saying, okay, it's time for this coach to player communications to evolve. And you should be able to communicate with more than just one player. Again, it goes back to that point with regards to what I just said with defenses in the NFL, or really NFL in general, where you see more and more NFL teams using paper wristband systems. Our system is no different. It's just digitized, right? It's literally, you're communicating the same information without having to signal in numbers or signal in signs. And, most importantly, especially at the high school and college level, without coaches having to put in all that work of creating those wristbands, right? Which, again, sounds silly, but those take a lot of time. As somebody who used to have to do the wristbands, those take a lot of time, and you're scared to death that you didn't get it right, or one of the numbers was off, or something like that. Whereas our system just gives coaches their time back with regards to that kind of stuff. And, we were, when I was in college as a student assistant at Syracuse, we had, a different wristband for every quarter, right? So you're talking about 4 quarterbacks, 4 wristbands, having to change those cards for all. I mean, that was a lot of work going into that from a week to week. And I know there's still teams that still do that. And again, that's just one of those kind of things you don't think about off the top of your mind that, again, is what we're solving, is kind of that from an efficiency model standpoint.
Yeah, those wristbands, and we were a big wristband team, but they would also make me lose sleep at night. Like, did we leave a wristband in the stadium? Did we make sure we collected all those? I mean, that became a procedure at the end of, every Thursday practice. Everybody turn in your wristband now. So, we get the new ones ready, but we know that we have, all of that material, and it's not laying out here somewhere on the field and they're picking it up and saying, hey, look, we got their wristband, which actually, I hate to admit, did happen to us.
When I was a student assistant in college, I worked for Coach Brian White, who was at Bowling Green most recently. He was at Wisconsin back in the day with Ron Dane and those guys. And he was the offense coordinator, and I was the wristband guy. And Friday nights before Saturday games, I could not sleep because I was so afraid. I'd have his call sheet and I'd have the wristbands next to each other and literally stare at them all night to make sure I got the numbers right, his call sheet was right. Like, those kind of things are stuff that I look back in my experience being like, wow, if I had GoRoute Gridiron, man, that would be a whole lot easier. I wouldn't have lost sleep every Friday night because of that. And again, that just goes back to who we are as a company. Yes, we're our front door is coach to player communications, but really what our bloodline is coaching efficiency, making coaches more efficient. And that's where I wish I had something like this when I was doing the wristbands back then.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Like I said, this is a new frontier in football right now. It's something that's going to grow. I'm excited to see what Texas does with this year and how this grows. And I'm sure the federation will be approving this, and we'll see it in college football as well. So exciting times. I love what you guys do. It was great to have you here on the podcast, Drew, and looking forward to you guys continuing to change the game.
Thanks, Keith. And always great to talk to you, and love what you guys are doing, and excited to be a part of it.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Practice presented by GoRoute. If you're a Texas coach, now's the time. Digital wristbands are approved for in-game use. GoRoute Gridiron delivers speed, clarity, and secure communications. Visit GoRoute.com/podcast and use the code coordinator to save 25% on setup fees today. The link is in the show notes. Stay connected with everything we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.